You are now listening to Not Safe for Church, a Pewology podcast original series.
Are we airing this? Okay, everybody, we're back again. This is our show, Pewology, and this is the first, let me think about this. No, this is the second time that we're just going to do a little one-on-one, little testimonial interview of sorts. Okay, so how long have we known each other?
I've been coming here 4 years, but I think we've only known each other for 3.
Okay, this is our good buddy Jess Finn, and so I think about a year ago we had you give like a testimonial interview in the service, but that was back when we weren't really taping anything. So we wanted to kind of have you back in and tell a little bit of your story because you have like a pretty wild story when it comes to the recovery movement and all that goes along with that. So how long have you been sober?
4 years.
4 long
February
years.
5th.
I gotcha. And you're like, you're not just like sober. You're like a poster child. You're like a walking advertisement for sobriety, and you work in the arena that touches sobriety and all these kind of things. So you've done like a big, like you were like a walking bumper sticker, a t-shirt for the 180 for the big turnaround.
Thank you. I feel like I affected everybody when I was using, so I try to affect everybody with my recovery now.
Okay.
Let's try to help as many people.
Yeah. Let's go back. I noticed too, because I noticed there's like these worlds of people in Osceola County, right? Where when somebody sends me like a Facebook friend request, I'm like, it'll be like, you're already friends with 2 of their friends. And it'll always be like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Jessica's already connected to thousands of people. Let's go back. So how long were you in a lifestyle of using?
20 plus years.
Daggum. Okay. And then this has always spooked me about your testimony a little bit. And then you're just like, and then I just put it down. Like your recovery was pretty dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was just that I had gotten to a place of where I couldn't go on anymore. Like I would rather be dead than the way that I was going. Because before I was like, well, maybe it'll get better or maybe it'll be different this time. Like I kept trying to live that way, thinking
you could manage it.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's like everybody though, that gets into like a pattern of using, that they're always thinking they can manage it, whether it's drinking or anything? It's just like, I got this. I can manage it. I can make it all work. I can juggle it. I can do it.
And also thinking like that it would be, because in the beginning, when I first started, I really liked it. Like I really liked the relief it gave me, and it made me feel like okay, like I'm okay. And it worked really well for me. So I was like, I wanted to get to that place again. Yeah. Like I was always trying to get to a place of comfortability, and I always would almost get there, but then it would go way over and I'd wind up with way more consequence than it was worth.
Did you do because, I'm talking like a guy that doesn't have a lot of drug experience because I don't, but you hear that people start off in this gateway kind of deal and then they kind of move progressively harder and harder. Was that your story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I started.
What started it for you?
I started with, weed and like acid and then ecstasy.
Just weed and some acid. Just threw some acid onto the weed.
But then that was like teenager stuff, and then
which is wild to me that you're like, that's just like teenager stuff. No big deal. Like if you had I have teenagers now, and like I'm just like, acid doesn't seem like teenager-y stuff to me. It seems like crazy.
Mm-hmm. But I was in a place of like, I grew up, my real dad was an addict, and I spent weekends with him, and he was weird, like different, and he would show me different things. Like,
so he would use with you?
Not with me. He didn't use with me, but he was using around me, and he was like, he would teach me about how to lie and like how to steal, like just like weird. So I had a like
this model
exposure to stuff that was when I was really young.
Okay.
And then
What's really young?
Like 5, 6,
wow.
7 when I was a kid. Okay. He ended up dying from an overdose, but
no way.
Mm-hmm.
How long ago?
When I was 23, so that's
so ago. his drug use got progressively harder too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did that shock you at all? At 20, I mean, when you're 23, he dies of an overdose.
It didn't shock me. No,
you weren't like you were just like what? He was a bad manager.
Yeah, I knew. Like, I had distanced myself from him because I had a feeling like he was gonna I'd lose him, and I didn't want to have a connection.
But did you put yourself in the same category at that time? Did you say, well, he's a user, I'm a user?
No, at that time I wasn't. At that time I stopped. I messed around when I was a kid, and then I was good for a while.
Okay.
I got a job as a flight attendant,
nice.
And then it was drinking on the overnights, and I just would always drink the most, party to where they're like, do you even know what you did last night? And I was like, no, I don't want to know. And
why? What was the
I'd black out.
Yeah, but was it just was it like an escapism? Was it like
it was like I have a compulsion, I have a disease of addiction where I just, once I put it in my body, I want more.
Yeah.
And I can't stop.
Okay.
And so that's what it is. And it went on like that to where it was progressively worse. The drugs got worse. The consequences got worse. The things I said I would never do, I ended up doing. And I lost who I was. I didn't even, I was just.
So how did you lose the job?
Well, they want to do a random drug test because I was I did some stuff. I think you could tell that I was messed up, you know, and they want to do a random drug test. And I know that in the airline industry, you'll if you fail, you can never work for them, for the travel industry again. So I resigned.
Before the random drug test?
Yeah.
So they came to you and said, hey, we're going to do a random drug test.
Yeah.
You're like, I resign.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally how it went. It's like, I'm out. Oh, man. And so they kind of knew, but they couldn't prove it. So then you could, if you wanted to, you could go back. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Hey, if I want to get hired on with somebody else and I can go back.
But right prior, I was on a plane that had caught on fire in the air.
What?
Yeah, and we had to do an emergency evacuation. But I got a Citizen of Bravery Award from the Atlanta Fire Department, so that was...
While it was on fire? Like the plane was on fire?
The smoke started coming out of the plane, and... Yeah. We were landing, people were screaming, and then and I had a really bad hangover. I'd been up, it was and I'm like, oh my, yeah. So it landed, and then I was like, I remember I wanted to just get off and run, but I was like, oh no, it's my job. I have to stay here and help these people. So then I stayed, and we got them off, and then this was right before this. So that's when my dad died, and then my best friend also died.
Drug overdose?
Yeah, both of them within 2 weeks prior of each other and that incident.
So you're using heavily at this point?
This point I'm not. This point I'm drinking. So, but when that happened, I was like, I went down far. I was like, I kind of felt like, why am I still alive? Why did they die? Why am I still alive? I felt like this feeling
do you think the job was keeping you from being more reckless? That once you were out of the job, you could be more reckless? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happens? When's the first time you start trying something hard?
So then I got a boyfriend, and he sold drugs, and he had pills. He
was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
he was a drug. You were dating a drug dealer, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he gave me some pills, and they made me feel better, and I just was like, I want.
What were they?
Roxy's, Roxy, OxyContin.
Okay.
Painkillers.
And did that start something? Did that that was the moment you look back to, hey, that's where the hard stuff really set in.
Yeah. And then I became just seeking that all the time. And then I started getting arrested.
And because of all the things that come along with seeking out this painkiller. Mm-hmm. And that's so common today. We went through a whole stretch there, but that's a pretty common story that I hear a lot. Usually it starts off with hey, I had this surgery, or hey, I had this car accident or whatever, and I got on these, and then it's one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I'm in McLaren Circle looking to buy these on the street.
For crack and
well, whatever. I'm just telling you, this is the story that I heard. But you know what I'm saying? It's I'm just out looking to buy these off the street.
Yeah. And
how bad did it get?
It got really, really bad. To where I couldn't, I just I lost, like, my family didn't want anything to do with me. You know, I gotten like 5 DUIs. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a driver's license for 10 years. I don't even know how I managed that. I got my driver's license like 2 years ago, and I had to have or 3 years ago, and I had to have the thing you blow in to start it for 2 years.
Okay.
But, I cried when they gave me my driver's license.
Like, it was like such a joy.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
Yeah, but just like the inside, though, on the inside was the worst part. Like, because like I lost everything more than once. Like, lost vehicles, lost jobs, lost apartments, all my things. But it was like on the inside where I felt like this complete and total, like, I would rather be dead. Like, this sucks. Like,
So
this
there's
is
like a depression that set in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but then because I went from doing I went from painkillers to heroin, and then I got on crystal meth to get off of heroin, and that drug makes you it's crazy what it does to your mind. But I'm actually surprised that I'm sane.
Really?
Because it was like I lost my mind, you know,
Wow.
and I would be up for days, and it causes you to, like, when you don't have it, become really depressed. And I wasn't like myself. I was just like someone else.
Wow.
It was, and my family was like, we don't get out of here. We don't want nothing to do with you. Stay away from here. But that's what I needed. That at the end, that was at the end. Because
When they cut you off, that was the beginning of the end. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because they'd always been there to pick up the pieces, or, you know, help me in some way. Yes. Yeah. So when they told me, like, no, we're done, I was like, wait, what? You know, and then it kind of made it easier for me to hit my bottom to want to get help. So that's why I always recommend to people who are dealing with someone who's an addict,
Let 'em
and not give them money, not help them get out of whatever situation. Like, just let them get to a place to where they need to find God, and it gets bad enough to where they have a little bit of willingness to try.
So does your spiritual awakening and your faith in Christ coincide? Does the timing coincide with the sobriety, or did that precede it? Did that cause it? Did that lead to it? What was the deal?
It was instant, like, whenever, because I didn't want anything to do with God, or I didn't believe, or I just was like, I don't believe, I don't want nothing to do with that. I didn't want to think about God or anybody.
So all that time you were using?
No, yeah.
There was never, like, there were times when it was like, it was introduced to you, but you were like, shut it down.
Yeah.
Not doing this, not doing
that. Because remember I told you when I was younger, I had a bad incident with some people with religion.
Oh, okay.
So I just didn't want nothing to do with it.
Okay. So you'd written it off. Mm-hmm. And then what happens?
And then I got to that place of utter despair, and then I cried out, God, help me.
Do you do this was this in like your bedroom? Was this like you were alone?
I remember exactly. I was walking into my bedroom, and I remember just looking up and saying, I need help, God, I need you. And then the house raided. And
wait a minute, what?
My house got raided.
Like then?
Well, the very next day.
Okay.
And it was like, it wasn't, so at that point I wasn't just like, okay, it's God. But then whenever I went to court, I had 11 charges.
So you have this moment where you're like, okay, I'm at my lowest of low. I cry out to God. I never wanted anything to do with God. Your house you're living in gets raided the next day, and you get arrested.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And then I when I'm at court, my public defender, she's like, so they have an offer. You're not going to like it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is it? And then she's like, you're going to have to change your entire life, like everything. And I'm like, really? What is it? And she's like, drug court. And I was like, drug court? And because that shouldn't even been an option for me. Like, I should be going to prison.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, you're going to have to change your whole life. And I just started crying because I was just like, I just knew, like, I'm like, this is God, like, because there's no way, like, I shouldn't even have this opportunity to do this.
Wow.
So I just knew that it was God. And ever since then, in the beginning, I still couldn't get it. Like, I still was trying to hang out with the same people and do the same things. And then I winded up getting put into the treatment center, Park Place, from drug court as a sanction. And then from there, I got sober on February 5th. And then I just have to seek God every day, and this, with what's going on in the world right now, I actually really like it.
What do you mean?
Like, being able to spend this extra time with God, and I get to go to meetings all day. They have meetings online. I'm able to help people, call people. Like, feels like there's more time to help others, and it's weird because in the past, when something like this would happen, if there was like a hurricane or something, I'd be like, okay, I need all the drugs. I need all the, this is, that's what I would be trying to do.
I need to stockpile my drug pantry.
Yeah, but it's not like that today. Today, it's like, I need to go to all the Bible studies. I need to go to all the meetings. It's like so weird. It's like I'm a completely different person. I'm not the same person that I was.
That's insane.
It's like I'm new.
When you had this moment, you cry out to God, and then the next day the raid, and then the next day you sense God's hands in the midst of this whole situation. What's the next early steps for you? Like, how did this faith form for you? Did you have help? Did somebody disciple you? Were you getting encouraged along the way? What's the deal?
Well, I started going to recovery, 12-step meetings. And in there, they have the process of working the 12 steps. Okay. And the 12 steps allowed me to work through all of the things that were blocking me from God, like all of the resentments and fears and guilt and shame. Because a lot of it was guilt and shame. Like, it started where whenever I did something that I felt shameful or guilty about, I was like, ooh, I don't want to look at that. So let me just get more messed up so I don't have to look at what I've done. It was like, and so to be able to work through all of that, like, tell the woman that I asked to sponsor me, tell her to all of the things I'd done, like every little deep, dark secret I ever had, like the things you don't want to tell anybody. I told all of my life to her. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't. She's like, oh, that's not that bad. I did that too, So it didn't feel like I was a horrible person. And then to make amends to the people that I harmed, that is such a beautiful experience, because it's like God is in those moments. We're repairing relationships with people that harmed me. Some of them that harmed me, but I have to make an amends to them because it's about whatever my part is.
Wow.
And
you got an example?
Yeah, well, one with somebody who was abusive to me. So then I was like, well, wait a minute, I didn't have a part in that. He was abusive to me, and then they're like, well, no, it's how you reacted to it. So how I reacted to it was I acted out. I was bad. So I was rebellious. So I went to him and said, that I was sorry for the way that I acted. And he said, growing up, and he's like, well, when I was a kid, and told me about what happened to him, that he was abused, and then he's like, I love you. Like, it was just like this thing of like seeing that other person is broken, and that something bad happened to them, and that's why they harmed me. Wow. And that was like, it just made it all okay. Like, it made it like I could feel like it wasn't just about me, because it was always, everything was just about me, but I could see where he was hurt too. And it just took away all that pain that I had gone through from that, and how I used it as an excuse for the way that I was.
I get this feeling all the time that, from if you were in a counseling arena or a psychological arena, we would call that depersonalizing. And I get the feeling that when we're encouraging steps like that, whether it's in church or it's in Bible study or it's in pastoral therapy or any of these kind of things, where that the idea of working through bitterness, offering forgiveness, having the confrontation, I think a lot of people who hear what you just said, they understand the ideas. It's not like it's like they can't understand the concepts. I just think it takes great courage to do it the first time. And I think a lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I had to pray to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And not have any expectations of what it was going to look like.
I mean, it's got to be nerve-wracking to go into one of those meetings the first time and go, look, I'm going to throw myself out here and I could get kicked in the teeth and, you know what I mean, emotionally, and we'll see how it goes. And a lot of people just, the thought of that going negatively is just too much to bear, and they won't ever step out and deal with their own bitterness, and that bitterness, it eats away at them.
Mm-hmm. But it's life-changing to do it, and it's not even about what. It's not about what happens from it. It's like cleaning my side of the street so that my side of the street is clean and I don't have to, I can walk anywhere and not have to worry about someone I'm going to run into and like what I did to somebody if I make sure that I complete these amends, which I still have amends to do.
Right.
So like monetary ones. And
now, how do you handle all that?
That it's part of, I'm slowly paying back, the things that I've.
Really?
Yeah.
Ay.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Oh,
but that's another place where I feel like God will provide as long as I'm doing the next right thing and I'm trying to pay things back. He'll make a way, in another monetarily, like something will come. I'll get some money somewhere else because I'm doing the right thing and paying back what I owe. That's
an amazing step too. Like, because it's not just some like check it off the list, like 12-step exercise. I mean, just take the next step and be like, okay, I'm going to actually put my money where my mouth is here and work through making amends with you, whatever that means at whatever level, Yeah. That's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Huh. It's good.
Man, kudos to you for pulling that off. I just think most people are just like, it's much easier to ignore those things.
I don't have the luxury of having a resentment against someone and not making an amends to them for whatever my part is, because it'll cause me to go back out.
Really?
Like those little things could cause me to go back out. So I have to be diligent, or it'll cause me to be the the kind of person you don't want to be around.
Right.
Like, what do they call them? Dry drunks, or people who are just holding on by but they want to drink or use, but they don't, they're not having any kind of like spiritual life to where they're trying to change and be better.
Yeah.
I would not want to be like that. Like I would rather drink or use than to feel like that.
Yeah. So let's backtrack on that, because you said a lot there. That was a mouthful. So you would say real spiritual, real emotional, real legitimate change. You don't have the luxury to just ignore the things in front of you. You got to face them. You got to deal with them. You got to confront them. You got to step out and pay the money. You got to step out and have the conversation, say the words, be ready for the encounter. You got to do it.
Yeah. Like I have to do a nightly review every night of, was I honest? Did I harm anybody? What could I have done better? Because then the stuff that I've done in the day will carry on to the next day. And that, it's just like it causes this
cycle
that would be worse for someone like me
right.
to hold on to.
Right.
So, which is good because it keeps me in constant contact with God, because I have to share with him whatever it is, like whatever resentments or anger or fears I have, and ask for direction and ask for help and pray for the person, like whoever I'm not liking. Like I pray, there's a prayer, like I pray for this person is sick. Help me to find a way where I can help them. I have to be able to see people as sick.
Right.
Because I was sick.
Right.
So.
Do you, when you started this journey, who was the first person that came along and was really poured some life into you? That was a good mentor. That was a good discipler that led you to places.
Ashley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was she just ahead of you on the journey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's on a year.
Okay.
But I needed a woman that had because they say it's somebody that has something you want. And in the beginning I was like, okay, well, I like her car or like her outfit, but then it's not about that. Like, it was about, a peace, a contentment, a joy that you want. So she took me through the steps in the beginning, and then we became best friends, and then she couldn't be my sponsor. But when you're best friends, you can't have that, because then
it just gets But it was better to have her as a friend than a sponsor at that point. You can't another sponsor. And
then me sponsoring women is where that's like.
How many people have you sponsored?
Oh, I'm not like, but they don't all work, they don't all stay.
Right.
So probably like 15 or 20, but some of them are ones that got out of the jail. Oh, because we didn't say that I go into the jail, but that's like the best when they get out of the jail and they call and they want to actually do it and try to stay sober.
And get started.
Yeah. That's
How long you been doing jail ministry?
3 years.
Yeah. Do you ever get tired?
No. No, I don't. Like, it's weird. It's so weird. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's its own.
It's like its
own fulfilling.
Yeah. Because it's like it's so surreal still to be able to go in there and to leave and to be able to go to a place where I was at.
Yeah.
And some of them I know. Well, a lot of them know me.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd known from old life stuff.
And that's why I was like, I'm staying in this. I don't like Kissimmee. I didn't like Kissimmee. And I was like, this is the reason why I'm like this. It's this town. I can't get away from it. But I stay here to let the people know that I used with or that knew me. Like, if Jessica Finn can do it, then I can do it. So when they see me, some of them cry.
Really?
Yeah, because they haven't seen me since I used with some of them. So it's like, they're just, it gets emotional because they're like, well, this gives me hope, and that, how could I get tired of that? Of being able to give someone a little bit of hope that they can find a way out.
Yeah. Man, it's a powerful story. And I think there's a lot of people, whether they're at your level or not, there's this great temptation in life, I think, to think, that was great for Jessica, or that's what she needs to do, or that's what has to happen for her. But I don't know if I believe that. I think what I believe that happens is when you get to a place of great desperation, as we call it in your community, we would say hitting rock bottom. But when you get to that place of great desperation, there is truly nowhere else to go but God and go but up. And so in that situation, you start doing things and trying things that were probably hinted to, dropped in, encouraged a long, long time ago. It's just that I think a lot of people who have not had these really high highs and these really low lows, like that are so evident in your life, they've lived this more vanilla life. They think, oh, I don't need this. But I think that these are the things that open up doors to like the spiritual life that Christ is calling us to, right? I think that's like when he says, I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. I think he's calling us to this kind of life, but then when it comes down to putting one foot in front of the other, we won't do it because it's like, man, this is crazy. This is intense. I'm going to go have this conversation with this person that I've talked bad about or hurt me, and I've held on to all this bitterness. I won't do it. I mean, something simple like that, we just won't do it. It seems that type of life seems so foreign to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'd rather like Jesus from a distance and continue in whatever mundane pattern that we have that we're like managing. It's almost like an addict, right? We're like managing this crappy life that really isn't what we were meant to live.
Right. I want to live it, and I want it to be like full color, like, good.
Yeah.
And I know that that's what I have to do in order to feel that. Because I like things to feel, and they don't always, because sometimes when I get that like natural like high from like helping somebody, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to go to sleep like this. I feel good. I want to stay like this. And but it's not always like that. Like sometimes I feel, but I just got to keep doing the things that I can get closer to God and closer to others, and be able to know that that we're all God's kids. And when I'm mad at somebody, then I'm, that's blocking me from God, and that makes it easier for me to forgive and move on and help others.
Because of your story and your access to these experiences, you've lost a lot of people along the way. I mean, even since we've known each other, I remember Remy and the whole deal with you losing her. I feel like you've lost a lot of people along the way. Does that shape the way you look at does that shape the intensity in which you approach relationships now, especially with people who are in broken places or using? Yeah,
I mean, it just makes it so I know that sometimes I remember when I went to speak with you about that, I was just like, because she didn't do nearly as bad of the things as I did. And I was like, why her? Like I said, I should have. Yeah. But because I'm here, that's why I feel very, very much that I have to try to be of service to others and give them a way out and get the women that I help to help others. Because I know that once they start helping others, that's what's going to ensure them to not go back out. Because if there's people that I know that get involved in church and God, and that's awesome and amazing. But I feel like that's also that we need to be able to still help the people that are sick and suffering, that aren't just in church. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's something that I have to be able to help somebody else. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I might forget if I didn't go help other people, that I might forget how bad it was for me.
Yeah. We've been talking for over a year now about the idea of putting together a sober house.
Good thing we didn't do it now after what's going on.
So crazy. COVID-19. Yeah. Right, but we've been talking for about a year about figuring out how to start a sober house in Kissimmee. And part of the reason is because, is that the right terminology, sober house?
Yeah.
Okay. And part of the reason is because we went up and looked at some of the things that were going on in Orlando, and they're so much better than what's going on in Osceola County. And we wanted to create some of the things we see there down here, because really what we're doing down here is if you have any means at all and you're trying to move towards sobriety, you'll go up there. There's nothing really, really great down here that you look at and go, wow, that I want to send my daughter there or my kid there who's struggling. And so we've been trying to figure that out. And so I'm just going to say this too. If you're listening to us on Facebook or anywhere in the world and you have some help or some ideas, we would love to talk to you about that, because we feel like we've got a concept and we're close and we see a model, but there's a lot of hoops to jump when it comes to property in the right place and the right situation. And we've been just kind of waiting on God's timing and talking to the city and other people, but it just hasn't manifested yet. But we feel like it's still to come. And so if you're listening on Facebook, we would love for you to get in touch with us if you're like, I'm interested in starting a sober house too,
Because I've had a lot of women, reach out wanting that around here, because it stinks to have to go back to the same environment and try to stay sober. So that would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, Josephine, thank you for sharing your story. Your testimony is amazing. Your love for Christ is evident, and we see it with every person you come in contact with.
Thank you.
All right. Love you. Mean it. See ya.